But when Karmello Anthony was allowed to graduate, I do remember the father or the family writing a letter to the school board asking for that not to be allowed to happen. But they did so anyways. Wow. And with the fact that this kid did graduate from high school, could that potentially help him when he goes to court? It won't. He's a high school graduate. He had never been in trouble before. But if all signs point toward first-degree murder and a conviction of that, nothing else matters, because the guidelines for first-degree murder are going to be life in prison. Still, he had convinced. So with that, playing devil's advocate here, how will Karmello Anthony survive a life sentence in prison? I hate to say this, buddy, if you end up in prison serving life, you're going to be tested.
Grace and peace, everybody. We're back. You saw the thumbnail. You saw the title. Let's get at it. Recently, I went back in the crates and been looking at what did people say about Karmello Anthony when he first got indicted, when he first went to jail. What were their prospects for his future? So we're going back about a year, and we're going to go check out the After Prison podcast. Fantastic content creator. He is a former patron of the Gray Bar Hotel, so he knows a little bit more about it than the average bear. And he's just, now that he's out, he talks about what life is like in prison, what to expect in prison. And he also talks about things around that. So remember when those 10 inmates broke out of the New Orleans jail, he was definitely the voice that we were listening to because he was always talking about it, and he had a lot of good insight. So about a year ago, give or take, he was talking about what Karmello Anthony should expect. It's a short video. I just want to see where he lands. We're going to go back in time, look at the crates. So let's bring him in. Hey, beyond prison, come on back up here to the front of the church. Let's go.
Karmello Anthony, accused killer of Austin Metcalf, was just indicted by a grand jury of first-degree murder. Folks, things are not looking good for the Karmello Anthony camp. And today, I want to talk to you about what life in prison is going to be like for this guy. Because given this indictment that has just been handed down, that is what he is now facing. Texas teen Karmello Anthony indicted on first-degree murder charge in stabbing death of Austin Metcalf, 17 years old. Folks, we all know this story. It's been all over the internet. It has ignited even more of a racial divide in this country. Texas teenager Karmello Anthony has been charged with first-degree murder in connection with the stabbing death of a 17-year-old at a high school track meet in April. Anthony, also 17, was indicted by a grand jury on Tuesday for allegedly killing Austin Metcalf after a dispute over a seat at the University Interscholastic League's District 11-5A championship on April the 2nd. For weeks, my team has been presenting evidence to the grand jury. Today, I summarized that evidence, and I asked the grand jury to return a first-degree murder indictment against Karmello Anthony, which they did. Collin County District Attorney Greg Willis said in a press conference on Tuesday. Keep in mind, Karmello Anthony is out on a $1 million bond that actually was reduced to a $250,000 bond. And had it not been for those crowdfunding efforts, this guy would still be sitting in jail right now, possibly. But what charge he actually bonded out of jail for, I thought was potentially a lesser charge or something other than first-degree murder. And folks, I would learn that it was exactly that. Karmello Anthony bonded out of jail on a first-degree murder charge for $250,000. Wow. He was originally charged with this same charge that he has just been formally indicted on. And I think that that really should speak volumes to what's going on in this particular case. I'm sure there will still certainly be a lot of speculation because there is still so much that is unknown in relation to this particular case. You would imagine that maybe by this point, he would either not be indicted or maybe when the court case comes up, they're coming at him with a lesser charge. Hey, look, go ahead and plead guilty to manslaughter. But no, the prosecutor had enough evidence to convince a grand jury to indict this young man on a first-degree murder charge. And with that, he's facing life in prison. And given that this took place in Texas, if he's convicted of this, that is exactly what he is going to get. Texas ain't going to play with this guy. Texas don't play with anybody. The case drew outrage after Anthony was freed on a $250,000 bond after the alleged stabbing, living it up with his family in a $900,000 home in a luxurious gated community in Rich Woods of Frisco, Texas, where rent is estimated at $3,500 a month. That's it. That's actually really not even that bad for a $900,000 house, but it's definitely the optics. It's just not a good look. Nothing about this is a good look. The unfortunate black and white nature of this case, it's not a good look. And it's sad to say that. The immense amount of money that was raised for this guy and then what those funds went towards, it's not a good look. And no matter how you spin this, when this guy goes up into the courtroom, all of this is going to be known by jurors, by judges, by prosecutors, and this is going to be a tough mountain to overcome. And if that potential evidence is in fact video evidence that showcases anything other than what has been portrayed in the media as a self-defense claim, this guy is getting life. A neighbor said,
all right, so now that we've passed this, and we're now looking backwards in the rearview mirror, how much of this was like right on the button, man? Like right on the nose. Goodness.
He even bought a new car after the alleged attack. Well, if we're going to go ahead and put salt in the wound, we might as well also mention the fact that he was also allowed to graduate, even under heavy opposition from the victim's family saying, whoa, this is a little too much right here. You know, letting this kid out and not making this a big racial divide. I remember the victim's father was really trying to, rein things in, get things under control before this turned into another civil unrest. But when Karmello Anthony was allowed to graduate, I do remember the father or the family writing a letter to the school board asking for that not to be allowed to happen. But they did so anyways. Wow. And with the fact that this kid did graduate from high school, could that potentially help him when he goes to court? It won't. He's a high school graduate. He had never been in trouble before. But if all signs point toward first-degree murder and a conviction of that, nothing else matters because the guidelines for first-degree murder are going to be life in prison. Still, he had convinced the judge to lower his bond from $1 million, citing financial hardships. I wonder how things are going for these folks right now financially these days. Anthony told cops he was acting in self-defense, with the family claiming...
I'm kind of wondering, because they got the bond reduced from $1 million to $250,000, Karmello would have been able to participate in his own defense. He would have been able to give information, work with the lawyers. He's in there grinding it out. That makes sense. It seemed like his lawyers and him were completely on a different page from what we've read from the trial. It seemed like they were on a different page, and we're in a different solar system even, because he didn't add any value. And of course, he did not take the stand for himself.
The narrative being spread is false, unjust, and harmful on a GiveSendGo.com fundraiser page for their legal fees, which has raised more than $530,000. Now, remember, they did have a GoFundMe set up, and that was taken down. So then they went over to GiveSendGo, and they seem to just don't let anybody have a crowdfunding campaign. And I'm not even speaking so much to this particular one. I remember another case. I think it was for the guy that ran over the cop after another cop had shot and killed his son. I remember that there was a GoFundMe that was set up for him, and then the police union tweeted out like, GoFundMe, what are you doing? Like, this is crazy. And GoFundMe did oblige and take down that crowdfunding campaign. But GiveSendGo did allow that individual to have a shot at a crowdfunding campaign. Soon after the indictment was handed down, Anthony's lawyer, Mike Howard, put out a video message reiterating the claim that his client's alleged actions were in self-defense. We are confident that when all the facts are presented and the full story is heard, the jury will reach the right conclusion and justice will be done. Folks, this is going to be a massive court case, just like the likes of Karen Reed and Diddy, but only comparing them for the fact that this will be definitely a case that's going to be all over every type of media. The DA's office said Anthony could face life in prison if convicted. Could face life in prison if convicted. That is the sentencing guideline for first-degree murder. So with that, playing devil's advocate here, how will Karmello Anthony survive a life sentence in prison? I hate to say this, but I feel like he'd probably be okay. Will static be brought his way? Oh, for certain. But for certain, he will be protected. There's no doubt in my mind to that. And hey, I hate to say it like this because this is going to sound absolutely horrendous, but he's already proven that he's not going to shy away from potential violence. He's already poked up one individual, sadly enough, and they lost their life. Maybe he'll have a little prison nickname when he gets there. Trying to think of something that could potentially be, but I'm not trying to make a bunch of jokes about this situation. This is a very serious case that is about to play out in front of the nation whenever it does go to trial. I don't know, and I'm trying to think, and I'm sure probably in some case there probably has been somebody, but to be charged with a first-degree murder charge and to be out on bond does seem just a little diabolical in my personal opinion. I agree 100%. But I'm quite certain without even knowing that he's not the first person to be given a bond with a first-degree murder charge. But he's certainly probably one of the few who's actually been able to make bond on that particular charge. How will Karmello Anthony survive a life sentence in prison? By having to find his way and adapt. I'm quite certain there's going to be individuals, or better yet, gangs, who want to take this young man up under their wing, protect him even. He might have to pay for that. And it might not even really come across as extortion. Hey, you can get down with us, but there's an HOA around here.
Not an HOA.
You got to pay your dues type-ish. The final thought that I want to leave you with in relation to how Karmello Anthony could potentially survive a life sentence is this. He may not. Given what actions he took when provoked in whatever way, allegedly, that would cause Austin Metcalf to lose his life. Buddy, if you end up in prison serving life, you're going to be tested. And how you react in those situations will really determine how your time is, and more importantly, whether or not he's actually able to survive at all. Keep messing around with that same type of energy that led him to this potential road that he's about to go down. You might really F around and find out in the Texas Department of Corrections. Because I can all but guarantee you, them dudes ain't playing where he's going to probably end up if he gets convicted of this first-degree murder charge. Folks, that's all that I've got in relation to this. Just wanted to bring this to you. I'm going to be monitoring this situation closely and bringing you the very latest, and I'm going to be curious, as I'm sure all of you are, how things are going to unravel when this case actually does get underway.
Shout out to the After Prison show. I appreciate him. I think his insight is absolutely spot on. And think about what he was saying, man, like what life is going to be like in prison. Let me know what you think about this one. Comment down below. He did do a more recent video about Karmello Anthony's being sentenced and such like that. Let me know. I will definitely bring that one on. We'll talk about it as well. This video is going to be linked down in the description as well as the pinned comment. So definitely go check him out. Support that brother. He's doing some excellent work. I want to hear what y'all think about it. So let's do that. Let me know what y'all think about this. Do you want to see the other video? All that kind of good stuff. You want me to comment on it? All that kind of good stuff. I'm looking forward to hearing from y'all. So until then, everybody, grace and peace. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the JWhit Podcast. If you enjoyed today's show, please do me a favor and hit me up with that 3-piece special. Like the video, subscribe, and of course, share it with somebody who would also enjoy this type of content. And make sure you leave a comment because I do pin the best comments to the top. So thank you so much for tuning in today. And until next time, everybody, grace and peace.